Okay then, let's work backwards from the ending, shall we? You buy a new TV, you hang it, you connect your Apple TV, you sit down, and everything works. The picture's beautiful, the sound is great, you watch a movie, life continues. So naturally the next question becomes, why the hell do all these AV guys keep carrying all these little boxes around? Well, that's a great question, and it's because HDMI was designed by drunken raccoons in a committee meeting. And it isn't the first day that's the problem. It's day 117. You see, day 117 is when the TV gets a firmware update, or the Apple TV gets a firmware update, or your AVR gets a firmware update, or the power goes out, or someone unplugs something, or a kid plugs a Nintendo into the wrong input, or Mercury enters retrograde, or literally nothing happens at all, which is my absolute favorite. Maybe the moons and winds in Rangoon changed, and suddenly your perfectly functioning system wakes up one morning and decides, I don't know, that violence is the answer. Here's what most people don't realize. You see, every time you turn on a TV, there's a conversation happening, and the source asks, what are you? And the TV says, I'm a TV. And the source says, cool, what can you do? And the TV says, well, you know, sometimes I'm a little Dolby Vision, I'm a little HDR, some audio formats. Depends on my mood. I'm very much a mood guy. Depends on what's mood I'm in. And the source says, good enough, I got this. And that's how your entire entertainment system is built, on a conversation between two liars who quite frankly aren't that committed to their jobs. Because every manufacturer interprets HDMI differently. Every manufacturer interprets EDID differently. Every manufacturer interprets Dolby Vision differently. And every manufacturer swears their implementation is correct, and by goodness they might be right. Which is exactly why every integrator reading this has stared at a black screen while quietly questioning their career choices, my goodness, again and again. And the symptoms are always weird, right? The TV randomly comes up in 1080p, Atmos disappears, the picture blinks, the screen goes black for 3 seconds every time the content changes. The customer swears it worked yesterday. You know it worked yesterday. Everybody knows it worked yesterday. But today HDMI chose chaos. And here's the thing. Most systems work most of the time. That's what makes troubleshooting so infuriating. If everything failed all the time, we'd know where to look. Instead, HDMI fails just often enough to make you look stupid. It's the AV equivalent of a smoke detector chirping once every 6 hours. You start wondering if you're crazy. See, the real pros eventually figure something out. The job isn't building systems. The job is eliminating variables. Every little tool in the van exists because somebody got burned before. Signal generators, cable testers, fox and hounds, network analyzers, EDID managers. And that's where little boxes like the AVPro EDID-X show up. Because EDID is really just the TV's resume. It's like a tiny block of information that tells the source what resolutions or frame rates or HDR formats or audio formats or other capabilities the display claims to support. In theory, the source reads that information and, behaves accordingly. In reality, sometimes that TV lies. Sometimes the AVR lies. Sometimes the Matrix lies. Sometimes everybody tells the truth. Sometimes everybody does their job, and HDMI still finds a way to ruin your day. Well, the EDID-X exists because installers eventually get tired of negotiating with unstable electronics. Instead of letting your devices argue with each other, you can force the conversation, and AVPro Edge, they continue to be the EDID managers in our industry. So now the source asks, what can you do? And the EDID-X answers, well, listen, this is what we're doing today. I'm taking over. No debate, no confusion, no existential crisis. And one of the best parts is that it doesn't require a computer science degree to operate. The front has a physical dip switch. Actual dip switches, tiny little toggles that even my fat fingers can operate, Tiny little Vienna sausages here, beauties, all of them. You flip them to select predefined EDID profiles, 4K, HDR, audio formats, different capability combinations. No software rabbit holes, no mystery menus buried 6 layers deep, no downloading a utility that only runs on a laptop that you left back at the shop. Just look at the chart, move the switches, and tell the system what reality is going to be. Now, even better, your brain can actually get around it. You don't need to memorize hexadecimal values or decode HDMI hieroglyphics. The switches represent specific operating modes. Pick the mode that matches the job. Lock it in, move on with your life. That's why experienced integrators love tools like this. Not because they're complicated, because they're simple. They remove variables. They create consistency. And consistency is what keeps service calls from showing up 3 months later, on day 117. None of them are there because systems always fail. They're there because systems fail exactly often enough to ruin your afternoon, and usually in front of the customer, or during the Super Bowl, or 5 minutes before a demonstration, or right after you've said these words, "This should be rock solid," which is the universal signal for HDMI to immediately begin plotting your destruction, which it was doing anyway. So the next time you see some weird little troubleshooting gadget sitting in an installer's bag, remember, that tool exists because somewhere, sometime, HDMI did something so unbelievably stupid and mean and inconsiderate that another human being finally stood up and said, "Never again," and then they bought the box. So until next time, keep your firmware updated, keep your cables honest, and never, ever trust an HDMI handshake you didn't witness personally. I'll see you soon.